Andrew Tate hates me. I am a fat woman who would tell him exactly what I think of him. And even though I embrace traditional roles and I have a loud mouth, though, if I was around him, I probably wouldn't hesitate to tell him exactly what I thought of him. However, and it almost hurts my mouth to say this, but I agree with some of the things that he says. So, we're going to get into it today and talk about that with you. We both embrace traditional roles, maybe in a different way than Andrew Tate does, but I want to talk about two of the most controversial things that he said, and he has said a lot. And I need your opinion on this, please. I want to make sure I'm not being angry just because I'm triggered. So one of the things that he said that's pretty controversial is that women were partially at fault for getting an intimate attack. And I'm laughing at the word, not at this. So he says that women shouldn't be drunk and alone with a man that they don't know. So he's making a lot of assumptions there that a lot of women are intimately attacked when they're drunk, but that's not true. So he also goes on to say that women should make better decisions about what they're doing and who they're spending time with. And here is where I agree with Andrew Tate. I myself have been intimately attacked, and it was 100% my fault. And the reason why I take full responsibility is because my intuition was screaming at me to get the hell out of there. I knew this was a person that I didn't trust, and I knew I was going to be alone with this person. And yet I did. I didn't make a decision to leave when I wanted to. And I trusted that they were going to do the right thing. And I was wrong. So a lot of women don't want to take personal responsibility for these types of situations. And I understand that some can't help it. So Jay, please talk to us about this, taking personal responsibility for something heinous like this that happens to many women. And is it our fault? Is it not our fault? Is Tate right? Are the women who are against him right?
Good questions. Why don't we pull it back a little bit, take a step back a little bit.
Okay.
And just look at personal responsibility and accountability in general. Because I believe Western society has lost sight of what personal responsibility and personal accountability really means and how important it is for humanity. So if some villagers build their huts at the base of an active volcano, or even a semi-active volcano, or even an inactive volcano, is this okay? Should they have any personal responsibility or accountability for this when the lava flows down and burns them all?
I mean, they chose where they're going to live. Like, they knew they were at the foot of a volcano.
Right. So could they say, like, how dare Mother Nature do this? We are kind, wonderful villagers, and we deserve to live here at the base of this active volcano. Could they protest it?
I mean, yeah, they could if they wanted.
But would it matter?
Nope.
Will it change reality?
Nope.
Will are the huffing and puffing in the world about how they think things should be change the laws of nature?
No.
Okay. If a teenager has a picnic with their friends, clearly next to a bee's nest, and they and their friends get stung, do they have personal responsibility and accountability for this?
Yeah, they chose to play near the bee's nest.
Right. If I blame the bees, I'm like, well, those bees should never have stung them, right? If I blame the kids, am I victim blaming? It's pretty basic, no? You know what bees do. You see the nest there.
Yeah.
You had your picnic. Could have moved anywhere else on the planet. No, I want to go here. You reap what you sow, right?
Right.
If I, a full-grown man, go to the worst part of Washington, D.C. and walk down the street with a Rolex on my wrist, and I get mugged or rolled or beaten or taken for ransom or murdered for my stuff, do I have personal responsibility and accountability for this?
Yeah.
Can't I just say, hello, I should be able to wear what I want and walk where I want. I'm a human being. I deserve respect and dignity. How dare this happen? You know what the problem with the world is? All of you guys, all of Washington, D.C., that whole neighborhood, they're the problem. Can I say that?
I mean, you have to be responsible for what you do, and
Well, be honest. If I said that, you'd all call me an idiot and like an asshole and an entitled, arrogant.
no, you're 100% right. Like,
You'd laugh in my face.
yes, like you knew what you were doing. You were in a bad part of town. Why are you walking alone? With a Rolex on your wrist?
You'd be like, dude, use some basic common sense. And I could be like, yeah, but I'm a good person. No one should just stomp all over my rights and be violent towards me and take my stuff and steal my stuff
I know.
just for being me. How dare they? I'm going to start a movement. Don't give me this thinking. You know damn well if anyone said that to you, you'd be like, you are clueless, sir.
So I'm thinking, the reason I'm thinking is I'm thinking like, so there's not a lot of people that know about my experience. The people that do have always been quick to defend me in that situation. Oh, but you didn't know. Oh, but you were around them a million times. And so in this example that you're giving, I feel like those same people would say, yeah, but you're a dude and you should know not to be walking in a sketchy neighborhood.
But I use the teenager with the bees.
Yeah.
I use the villagers with the lava.
I agree with you.
You can come up with a million different excuses. Here's the point of the questions. Anyone of reasonable intelligence, and I hope all these protesters who get mad about intimate attacks have reasonable intelligence. I hope they identify as someone with reasonable intelligence.
Right.
Anyone with reasonable intelligence can take a look at a situation and make a prudent, practical decision to make sure that bad things don't happen to their life.
Right.
Anyone can take a look at the bee's nest and be like, we should probably unwrap our food somewhere else. Anyone could go camping and be like, we should put our food up in a tree away from the bears or whatever. We should do something here. Because they are bears. Anyone can go to a dark alley or the ghetto or the worst parts of town and be like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be like stripping naked here and putting a sign up like everyone come have at me, right?
Right.
We can use common sense. Any reasonable person and all the ideal should be's, how society should be, how nature should be, what I should be free to do and should be allowed to do in the whole world make no difference to the reality of life in front of us. And reasonable people work around that.
Yes.
Unreasonable people protest against that and act like the whole world should bend to them and everything should change. If I go to the ghetto, everyone else should change and just be better people and just not mug me.
I mean,
I should have the freedom to wear whatever
Rolex I want.
That's the idea,
utopia, that everybody should be great and I love it too. And not do that.
So, and I love it too. Sure. Stay with me.
I am.
So, like you said, you had intuition.
Yes.
Most people have intuition. All people have intuition. Some of us aren't practiced with it. Some of us tune it out. Some of us don't listen to it. Some of us ignore it. But the point is we all have intuition. And I believe women especially have good intuition. They are known for intuition.
Yes.
And like it just takes a little bit of common sense to avoid most of the situations that people have trouble with or struggle with or end up being intimately attacked in. If you examine the journey from when you woke up today or when you planned the party a week ago or whatever, if you examine all the situations leading up to that, there's generally many indicators that this might not be the best idea. When you go to your closet and choose what to wear, like, of course, in an ideal utopia, everyone should be allowed to wear whatever they want. I would love that. We would have a lovely world. Everyone would be dressing to impress or whatever. It would be wonderful. But I can't go to a job interview in my PJs and expect to get the job. That's not reality. That's not how it works.
And the truth is, it doesn't matter what the hell you're wearing. I was dressed like a boy wearing Doc Martens. My head was shaved.
Yeah, it was just an example. Right. It's not the only. I'm saying there's many choices.
Sure.
You know what kind of crowd this is. Yeah. Or you know if they're strangers or unfamiliar to you. You know if you should be wearing X, Y, or Z. I know if I go to a job interview, if it's some casual startup, maybe I can get away with like a backwards cap. If it's some corporate position, I might have to adjust things. Mm-hmm. You don't hear me like raging that I can't wear what I want to the job interview. How dare they have these standards?
Right.
And if I go to a party and someone steals my shit or there's drugs everywhere, it's like I knew pulling into the neighborhood. I knew when the guy invited me. I knew when the first drink was poured or when the first peer pressure came. I could have bounced. There's so many little moments before this thing happens, and full-grown adults or even teenagers or even kids, even little kids have intuition and signs most of the time. And this is not to defend any terrible person who does any terrible thing. And this is not to victim blame. This is simply to point out how personal accountability and responsibility works on Earth, okay? I don't want people somehow stepping out of reality, somehow stepping into a delusion where they're in some crazy utopia where everything goes flawlessly. We live on Earth. We deal with realities. There are many different realities that we may not like. Volcanoes, we don't like. Hurricanes, we don't like. Bees, we don't like. Muggers, we don't like. Intimate attackers, we don't like. But they all exist. And part of being successful here on Earth is learning to navigate those hazards, those part of the world that exists.
Yes. Right.
And whether we like Tate or not, whether he's speaking in good faith or not, he is making a point about personal responsibility and accountability that has a massive bearing on all of this stuff.
I totally agree. And I think a lot of what he says, it's the way he says it. It's one thing to hear you say, taking personal responsibility. This isn't like you should do this. It's important, whatever. Your tone, your language, your energy, the everything about you that I know about you that is loving and kind and generous and considerate. And like the list goes on and on. This is one thing, but the hate that he looks at the camera and just spews it. It's your fault and you should know better and you shouldn't be drunk and you like, I know a lot of it is that, and that triggers me. So when we sat down, when we started, I struggled a little bit because I was already triggered knowing where this was going to go. And I did my best to raise my energy before we started because I knew that at some point that I was going to feel like this and worked up. And it's because I want to defend what you're saying and I want to defend myself for agreeing with him. But the truth is we all need to take personal responsibility for whatever happens to us in our life. And this is such a beautiful and empowering thing. I felt like a victim for so many years. I couldn't even say intimate attack, the proper word for it, the word that we all use on a regular basis for years, because I would break down and I would feel like a victim and helpless. And when we met and you taught me to start taking responsibility for my actions and my thoughts and everything in my life, this changed my trauma. Like this,
it's empowering.
Yes, it was empowering. So anybody out there that's struggling with trauma, if you empower yourself by taking responsibility for your part of it. It doesn't mean they were right for what they did to you. It doesn't mean that it's a good thing what happened. I just mean it's super empowering and it's such an important lesson. And so while he says it with hate and you say it with love, I just want it out there for people to hear and understand that it's really a loving thing to do, to take responsibility for yourself and what's happened to you in your life.
Yeah, and it applies both ways. For example, Andrew Tate recently got arrested by the Romanian police.
He did.
But like, he can't blame anyone. I mean, he might try to blame someone, but it would make him a hypocrite.
Sure.
If he blames someone, then he's not taking personal responsibility and accountability for the bad thing that happened to him, for the police attack that happened to him, right? He wants to say other people are responsible for their intimate attack. Okay, so be it. But then he has to take full responsibility for his police attack.
Agreed.
I don't want to hear any talk about the Matrix or conspiracies or whatever.
Ah, that's good. Yeah, good.
Right? No, the truth of it is there were many signs leading up to that. Does picking a fight with a popular teenager climate defender or whatever, climate change activist, sound like a good idea? Is this going to lead to good things?
No.
Right? It's the first step. So if I wear PJs to the job interview, let's be practical, let's be sensible, let's have common sense, let's be honest. Is that going to lead to good things for me? Am I going to nail the job? Is my whole career going to blossom? Not really likely. Probably don't do this. If I go to that party in that shady part of town with that stranger who I've never met before, and it's the second time I've met them or something, is this really going to pan out well for me? When I get to the door and I can see like baggies of Coke floating everywhere, should I turn around and walk away, right? Oh, but he was my ride. I don't want to pay for a cab. I don't want to take the bus home. Well, then it serves you right. And so for Andrew Tate, is picking a fight with this teenager a good idea? And then second, is showing identifying markers on camera in your video a good idea? Now, we can argue maybe he did it intentionally to get rid of these charges and have a face-to-face confrontation with the Romanian police, whatever. But either way, you got to take responsibility for this. And you can't blame the people who are hating on you or attacking you or the people giving you a hard time, people who are making your life difficult for this. Because there are many points along the way, you made decisions to create this situation. If I'm having a fight with you, if I'm talking kindly and calmly and I'm looking out for your best interests and so on, great. If I start to raise my voice, is this going to lead to good things? If I calmly walk away, will this diffuse the situation? Like how I conduct myself moment to moment creates the conversation.
Right.
I have to take personal responsibility for that. But same with you. If you insult someone or poke the bear, or if you be manipulative or use emotional abuse, it probably is not going to create a great response from someone else. A lot of people are able to poke their partner so much that the partner becomes violent. But only the violent person gets taken away by the cops. No one says anything about all the emotional poking, and serves you right. I don't know who raised you, but you should not be poking people like that. You shouldn't be prodding people like that. You shouldn't be using emotional hot buttons to get a response out of people or derail the argument or win the debate or whatever. You should be arguing in good faith with a kindness and trying to reach a solution together. If you're going to poke the bear, you deserve violence. If you kick a dog, it should bite you. If you poke a bee's nest, it should sting you. And if you emotionally poke and prod someone enough till breaking point, that's on you. Even if you're with someone who has a terrible temper and is a hair trigger and they're just a terrible person, right? They're abusive. You know that. It's not like you met them on the street and they were randomly terrible. You know about them.
Yeah, you know your partner.
You know how fast they yell. You know how fast they're moved to violence. You know all of these things. And you have to know what you're dealing with. Are you dealing with a pit bull or are you dealing with a poodle? You have to treat them differently. Do you treat poodles and pit bulls differently?
Yes.
So do I.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an idiot.
Right. And
I take personal responsibility. And if the poodle bites me or if the pit bull bites me, it's kind of on me both times. If I don't want the pit bull to bite me, I should stay behind the fence or across the other side of the street or
not go near it.
Yeah, tell people I don't like this kind of dog and move away or whatever. Yeah. I should do something, not be like, oh, hi, little pit bull. Then it bites me. That's on me.
Yeah.
Now you get the rare cases where it's unprovoked. But even then, the animal might be reacting to the fear. Like, is Cesar Millan going to say it was unprovoked, or will he point out, no, I wouldn't have got bitten by him.
Yeah.
Right? So there's all these nuances, but ultimately what it comes down to is there are many points along the way for us to take personal responsibility of how we got into these situations. You suddenly can't pay your rent. It's like, but along the way, how much savings did you save up? Did you blow all your money every month? How did you live, right? Why? How are you in this situation? Because many other people would have smartly ate craft dinner and put some aside for their nest egg, right?
Right.
And it's really easy to take this too far and go into victim blaming mode, which is not what I'm doing.
No, I understand.
Because muggers and attackers and abusers and all of these terrible ways of being also have to take their responsibility. They also have to take personal responsibility.
Right.
If someone's emotionally abusing me, do I get violent or do I walk away and go meditate?
Yeah,
right?
They have the choice
Hopefully,
at any time.
But I have to take responsibility too. So there you go, right? It applies to everyone, even Andrew Tate, this personal responsibility thing. And I believe our society needs way more personal responsibility because we have a society of finger pointers and blamers and people playing the victim.
I agree. And part of one of the things that he said too was to, like you just said, to stop blaming other people, where people want to say, it's not my fault I'm fat. It's not my fault I was intimately attacked. It's not my fault that I'm poor. It's not whose fault is it? It's your life. It's your life. You have to take responsibility at some point. So
and you can say it might not be your fault, but it's your lot in life to do something with. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to work with what you have. Right. It's not anyone else's responsibility to work with what you have. It's your responsibility to work with 100%. What you have.
Yeah. And we have enough people blaming others. So this is why I said, it almost hurts my mouth to say I agree with this man, because the way he says it isn't ideal, but the idea behind what he's saying isn't wrong. So this kind of goes with what I just said about blaming other people. So one of the things that Andrew Tate has said is about depressed people. Most depressed people are unhappy with their lives. And Andrew Tate blames those people. He's saying it's your fault that you're unhappy with your life. It's your life. You choose what you can do. Depression is it doesn't exist. You're just lazy. So I spent 24 years in therapy. I took Prozac, lithium, Geodon, Xanax. I had 6 panic attacks a day. And then I met you and all of it went away. So, so am I the magic special person that was able to just meet a great person and poof, it all went away? Was it all made up? Was I being lazy? Like, how is this possible that I was able to get over depression, but all these other people in the world, this is something that is blamed on everyone else around them except themselves?
Well, isn't this just more personal accountability stuff? If something bad happens to you, like the Romanian police come and arrest you,
Mhm,
or a volcano burns your village, you can take responsibility for it,
mhm.
or you can point fingers at other people, or nature, or whatever, life, God. You can blame anything. You can blame something external,
Right?
or you can take personal internal responsibility. That's your choice. That is the only two choices whenever something happens in your life,
Okay, so
right?
was I making it up then?
Well, so the question is, if you end up with depression somehow because you surely didn't have it when you were a 2-month-old infant,
Mhm.
then you have two choices. When you discover you have depression, you can either take personal responsibility for it, be like, this is the situation. I may have contributed to this along the way with some of my decisions, but even if I didn't, it's my time to do something about it.
Right.
Or you can point fingers, blame other people, play the victim card, and now you don't have to do anything about it, do you? Because it's someone else's fault, someone else's responsibility. Someone else has to do something about it. Society has to help you. Doctors have to help you, but you don't have to help yourself. You don't have to take personal responsibility. These are your two choices forever in everything in life. You show me anything that happens to anyone, and I'll show you a choice to take personal responsibility in the part that we played in it, even if it was a 1% part. Somehow we played a part in it,
Mhm.
or the choice to blame others and stay comfortable and never have to assess anything you've done.
Yeah, okay. So this makes sense and it goes with what we were saying before about the intimate attacks. So when I go a little bit deeper on this,
Mhm.
and Andrew Tate says that depression doesn't exist, is not a thing. Yeah, I spent 24 years miserable and unhappy and having panic attacks and afraid and on medication and going to therapy. So was it not real?
So, like in caveman times or the dark ages, the medieval times, do you think people killed themselves?
Sure.
You think they killed themselves when they were super joyous?
No.
You think they killed themselves when they were depressed?
Yeah.
So, since the dawn of humanity, people have had emotions and feelings,
Mhm.
and some of those feelings are very low, like sadness or guilt or blame or self hate or depression. And
Mhm.
some of them are very high,
Right.
like joy and ecstasy and bliss and union and harmony and peace, right?
Right.
So modern day societies acts like depression is some kind of magical, unbeatable dragon, some monster that no one can defeat. But to me, I'm just like, yo, this has been around forever. Ain't special. Tons of people have this. I'm sure there's a million like peasants or serfs who off themselves depressed that the Duke took all their stuff or whatever.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's cavemen who were like, yo, this life is for the birds. I'm out. I'm sure there were Victorian Oscar Wilde peeps who ended their life early
Right.
from depression. And the people who stayed alive, some of them were probably depressed as well. So I don't think it's some magical, mystical, unbeatable dragon. I think it's a
Right.
normal human emotion that everyone feels in some degree or another. I don't think you can find me one person who hasn't had a taste of depression.
Okay, so then why for the last 4 years I've had no panic attacks, no bouts of depression, and I've been perfectly fine without any medication
Really.
since
So December 22nd, you were feeling super joyous, not even a hint of depression then.
um
You didn't go analyze your life,
no,
think
okay,
about ending
so
it
so what
all.
I mean by that is I spent months depressed where I wouldn't get out of bed.
Sure. But answer
And
the
in the last 4 years, I've had moments of depression where I felt sad or
yes,
frustrated.
like
And
all
on
humans. My
December
parents have had moments of depression.
Sure. And
Right.
on December 22nd, this was a moment of depression that caused us to have a pretty big fight. And it and it changed some things and we made some decisions and stuff. So I would not call this a bout of depression. I didn't spend
Sure, but it's
days.
all semantics, Sin.
Okay.
It's all labels, right?
All
This
right.
is what people do.
Well,
They want to take something normal and they want to throw labels on it until it becomes an unbeatable monster.
well, that's what I'm saying. Other people like what? So to me, I haven't had any issues with depression. That doesn't to me that wasn't an issue because I wasn't in the same headspace or the feelings or doing the things that I did when I spent years like that. So
Sure, but let's not make this about you. I'm trying to
no,
I'm
okay,
trying to talk about
all
a
right,
principle
all right,
for the people watching,
fair enough.
right? We can bring it back to you after, but for now, I just want to discuss the principle of depression because it's important to have an understanding of what you're talking about before you go digging and rooting around in the
Okay.
nuances of it.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure everyone's on the same page with depression. A lot of the people watching may think it's some mystical, magical thing. But I know, and I hope you know, that it's just a natural human emotion that has existed since the dawn of time, and people have been dealing with it forever. It's not rocket science.
Okay.
Okay. And so I don't know about Andrew Tate's stance on it. I haven't talked to him personally. I'm not even sure about exactly the quote you're referring to, but I try to see the best in others. So I'm going to assume he's poorly phrasing a well-intentioned point, right? This is how you see the best in someone else. Probably they're just not speaking correctly. Maybe if we dig deeper, we can see what he's really getting at, etc., etc. We try not to leap at their phrasing or get triggered by their words, and we try to dig for the deeper point. And so I'm going to assume in this case that his point is that depression is just an emotion, something that we feel personally inside, and no one controls our emotions but us. If we're not feeling XYZ and we want to feel XYZ, we can take measures to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, when they feel depressed, their best attempt at solving it is to cram themselves full of medication. I'm not saying this is good or bad, yes or no, but it's them doing their best to get a handle on depression. But I think that they haven't been given other tools. I don't think they've been taught how to manage their emotions or handle their moods or take control of their life, take responsibility for their life, and to actually elevate themselves, to self-elevate. But any human can self-elevate. People have come from the worst situations and the worst childhoods and the worst, most corrupt places, and they have turned their life around. People have been bullies. Nick Vujicic had no limbs, and I'm sure he was in a very dark place, and now he's the most inspirational dude.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone can self-elevate and raise their emotions up. But it takes effort. It takes energy. It takes focus. It takes practice. It takes discipline. It takes failure and getting up after falling down. You have to be really determined to improve your feelings. You have to make some big decisions about your life. And most people would rather just pop pills than do that. And so that's the go-to. And I believe what Andrew's getting at, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe what he's getting at is he'd like to see less people blaming external circumstances for their feelings, and he'd like to see less people looking for a quick, easy magic pill for their feelings, and he'd like to see more people taking responsibility for themselves and where they're at in life, and taking responsibility for their feelings, and then taking steps, actual, focused, disciplined, driven, free-willed steps to elevate those feelings in a more permanent way, even if that takes practice, if that takes falling down, even if that takes making some major changes. I think that's what he's saying, is that he'd like to see that. And you know what? I'd like to see that too. I love people, and I see them as powerful. I see all of you as powerful. And even if you have a long journey or you're in a very dark place, I believe you can take small but productive steps to get to a better place and to elevate your emotions and your mood. And I believe that's what you did when we met. Mm-hmm. I think my strong belief about this and my strong belief in your ability to do this is what inspired you to start taking those steps. Because I wouldn't stand for it. I'm not going to let you wallow in misery. I'm not going to let you play the victim. I'm like, Sin, you're better than this. Yeah. And I've come out, I spent 2.5 years homeless, broke, betrayed, jailed, robbed, like everything terrible. Mm-hmm. And I brought myself out of it.
You did.
Or God brought me out of it, or whatever you want to say. But it wasn't medication, and it wasn't therapy, and it wasn't any of that. And then the same thing happened for you. Like my belief in you were able to do the same thing with your depression, because depression is just an emotion. That's all. It can feel pretty rough, pretty intense, pretty crushing.
Yeah.
But like any emotion, you can gradually elevate it, and you can get your life to a better place. You can get healthier, you can get cleaner, you can get more prosperous, you can make moves, you can become more valuable, you can do something. You have arms, legs, a brain, a heart, a mouth. You can contribute to society. And as you contribute and help others, you may find karma just comes right back to you if you do it with a good heart. If you stop pointing fingers and acting as if your emotions are some unbeatable dragon. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And so, yeah, like I was already taking baby steps before we met to improve my life. And I guess because when we met, I just took giant leaps after that. So if I think about it that way, this is why it felt like overnight, because I was taking these small steps, and then meeting you and the health video, watching the health video, which is an incredible video. And I'll link it in the description. So you guys can see what I'm talking about. But anyway, this video and talking to you made me realize that I had control, not just over my decisions, but my thoughts, my feelings, my body. I didn't need medication, and I didn't need a magic pill to feel better. So I stopped taking the magic pills, and everything changed. I haven't had a panic attack in 4 years.
I'm thrilled. I'm super happy for you. And I want that for other people too. And
Yeah.
I'll help however I can. Yeah. So hopefully for those two statements, it sounds like Andrew Tate has a reasonable understanding of these two things. I don't think he's being too ridiculous in these two statements.
And
although I think he may make many other over the top remarks.
Right. And again, I think it's the way he talks to people, his tone, his energy. For some reason, if it's coming from a loving person in a kind and loving way who explains things like deeper than you're lazy and you should change your life. Like this explanation you gave is brilliant. And hopefully anyone who's listening or watching understands the deep level of love that you feel for everyone, to explain it in this way and understands it the way that you've meant it. So, you versus Andrew Tate. God, I would love to have him on our show and have you talk to him, because he's a very confused person, I think. And the way he talks to people, I think, has a lot to do with the hate. So the next thing I want to talk about is why so many people hate him. He is, I think, the number one hated person right now in the world, or one of them. He seems to be such a negative person. But when I look at how you broke down what he said at the last two topics, the last two quotes,
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Like the way he said it, yes, was hateful, but the words, what he means, I don't think is. I think like it's
those two statements.
Those two. I'm not talking about some of the other ones. We're just talking about those two. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. But I feel like he's trying to get people to listen. He's trying to plant seeds. He's just going about it maybe the wrong way. And so he's so aggressive. Do you think this is why people hate him so much? Because he's aggressive and the way he comes across and the way he talks?
I mean, I'm just going to take you at your word on the stats. I don't know if he's the most hated or third most or whatever.
Well, yeah, but
my question to you would be, doesn't it seem like a lot of people love this guy?
Yeah, that's my next question.
Well, they're kind of related. When you are a polarizing figure espousing polarizing views, you will polarize society, and you will get 50% of society hating you and 50% loving you.
Right.
I believe Trump did a similar thing.
He did.
Or maybe he got 51 and 49 or whatever.
Yeah,
but you get two groups. I don't know.
Love
the
and
size.
hate. Yeah.
And these groups have formed around any polarizing figure forever.
Right.
Donald Trump gets a huge chunk of people hating him and a huge chunk of people loving him. Justin Trudeau gets a chunk of people hating him and a chunk of people loving him. Jesus got a chunk of people hating him and a chunk of people loving him. Marilyn Monroe got a chunk of people hating her and a chunk of people loving her. Yoko Ono got a chunk of people hating her and a chunk of people loving her. Yeah. So there's something deeper here. Because this isn't something in particular Tate is doing special to be hated. This is something that every polarizing figure has done.
Okay.
Even Gandhi had a chunk of people hating him and a chunk of people loving him. So this is less about the people who are doing these things, and is more about how the masses or society or humanity operates. Most of society, most human beings, are at a certain level of consciousness. Some of them are able to handle nuanced dialogue and nuanced conversation. They're able to put judgment aside and have a reasonable civil debate.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a very small percentage of people.
Yeah.
And you won't find them often. And the rest of them are driven by the media. They're fed by bread and circuses, right? It's a old Roman phrase, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They just want controversial content. They want a show, entertainment. And as long as they're getting fed, as long as they're consuming, they're happy.
Right.
And most of society is focused on consuming. They want to consume the media. They want to consume the trends. They want to consume the products, the services, everything. They're just consume. And they're not really focused on making something of their life. Most of them are going to die consumers.
Right.
Maybe our whole audience is not part of this group. I don't know.
Right.
But most people are. And we have to take a look and realize whether we're one of them or not. Maybe I am.
Okay.
And if you serve up an opinion or a statement or a new thought or an idea or a belief, the way Gandhi did, the way Jesus did, the way Trump did, the way Tate did, if you serve up an idea to this majority of the population, they can only react in one way, because they aren't big on nuance. They're not big on civil debate. They're not big on critically thinking and analyzing and looking through someone's thoughts and words to find the message beneath. They're not looking to read people's energy or intention. They're not looking to see the best in people. They are looking for bread and circuses. They are looking for something they can get triggered about and go talk about at the dinner table.
Yeah.
They are looking to proclaim their opinion and be self-righteous. They are looking to protest their cause so they don't have to really do much in their life. They're busy focused on what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And so when you serve up an idea to these people, they can only react in one way, really, which is to become polarized, to choose a side. This is their whole reality. They are side choosers. They are good and evil. They see very few shades of gray. And even if they do see shades of gray, it's only to serve their good and evil agenda. This is how they do things.
Right.
And this will happen at any time. This could happen with me on this podcast right now. I could be saying the nicest thing or have the most reasonable take, or I could be asking very helpful questions.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone operating from this paradigm of black and white, good and evil, choose sides, right, wrong, no nuance, no digging deeper, no context, no shades of gray, no broader perspective. Anyone who's like that is going to just either agree with me passionately or disagree with me passionately. And so then what will you have in the comment section?
A polarized view.
Yeah. A bunch of people hating and a bunch of people loving. Unless one of the people commenting happens to be this open-hearted, open-minded, judgment-free person who's eager to connect with another human being, build rapport, and really understand what I'm saying, right?
Right.
Then we can have a civil discussion. Even if they disagree with me, we can actually engage in a nuanced discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But most people are too busy and too focused on their own shit. And so they don't have time or inclination for a nuanced discussion. They don't have time or inclination for critical thinking. They don't want to put judgment aside. The judgment makes them feel superior and self-righteous. And so they're just looking to judge. Snap judgment, pick a side, go about their day.
Okay. Just makes sense. So I recently saw on Reddit a woman complaining that her boyfriend broke up with her because he was a fan of Andrew Tate and she is not. So they have the love and the hate. And he broke up with her because she wouldn't support his choice to be a fan of Andrew Tate. And to her, it was a red flag that he liked Andrew Tate.
Makes sense.
And so the comments were full of men who hated him, full of feminist men who were saying things like, you did the right thing. He hates women and he could hurt you. And they were going really far with their assumptions. They don't know her boyfriend. They don't know anything about him. He's a fan of Andrew Tate. And that's why they broke up. So my question is, I guess what you just said refers to the same thing, because I came to the podcast thinking like these men who don't like Andrew Tate may be more on the feminized side of the scale.
They
Or
might be.
I thought there would be like a division, like men who wanted to be alpha or saw themselves as alpha, and those who are beta or saw themselves as beta. But with your explanation now, I kind of think that I was wrong. Like this was an assumption that was,
Yeah, that's an assumption.
yeah, that was not
It could be anybody.
right. And so even I'm not a fan of this man, and yet I agree with some of the statements he's made. I mean, I disagree with a lot of them too, but agree with so much of what he says.
Sure,
So-
because a human being is nuanced,
right,
right?
right.
People want movie villains. They want to just slap a label. That's Maleficent, whatever.
Yes.
Done.
Yes.
Even when you outline the boyfriend and the girlfriend who break up over their love/hate of Tate, the commenters just want to pick sides. That's all they want to do.
Yeah.
They do not want to get to know these two human beings. They do not want to understand where either of them are coming from. They want to find their own agenda buried in what they're saying and highlight it, surface it, cherry pick it. And it's fine. Like earlier in this chat, I was saying we have to deal with reality and make prudent decisions. If you're around like violent criminals or drugged out cokeheads, maybe adjust your behavior, right?
Yeah.
If you're dealing with the masses and they're mostly fed by the media and they live in a black/white, good/evil paradigm with no room for nuance or gray areas, and they have trouble getting into critically thought out discussion, adjust your behavior accordingly. This is why most people ignore comment sections.
Yeah.
Usually the people who have made it to air have slightly better critical thinking skills. Again, not impressive, but generally above their commenters.
Okay.
Generally.
Yeah.
And so this is why people tune in to hear these influencers while they ignore the comment sections.
Right. Well, this makes sense.
Now you can still find gems in the comment section here and there.
Yeah.
But it's like needle in a haystack because you have to hunt for the one critical thinker or the one person who lives with nuance.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have no tolerance for influencers who phrase things harshly or for use too much hyperbole.
Mm-hmm.
Or who take an aggressive tone. And as soon as they encounter that, their brain shuts off, their triggers happen, and they're like, this person is trash.
Right.
Even if that person says something that has a positive message or something productive or helpful or valuable, they're done. They're not even going to listen to it. And they're going to hate on that person for their tone, probably till their dying day, for a long time. Some people hear anything that's against women or doesn't seem to be in favor of women or might be over-focused on males or masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they encounter that, done. Brain shuts down and they're triggered.
Right.
And even if there's some possible nugget of gold in what the person's saying, they ain't hearing it.
Right.
Some people just don't like bald people and they hate them.
Yeah. I got you.
Some people hate on someone who's popular. They're just counterculture. They're just contrarian. They're just rebels. They just hate everything that's popular.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I hated you when we before we actually met, before we actually talked, because you posted a lot of scantily clad women.
Yeah, because I love scantily clad women.
I know you do. But
it's my thing.
Before we met, like, and actually spoke or I paid attention to you, I didn't like what you were posting because it triggered me because I wanted to be like that and I wasn't. And I felt like you were offending me for some stupid reason. I don't even remember. But so everything you're saying is true. And then I saw that video of you and completely lost my mind and fell in love with you. So I went from one to the other because I actually paid attention to what you were saying. Had I paid attention before and not allowed the photos to trigger me on your old Instagram, then we probably would have connected sooner, or I would have asked you, like it would have, maybe I could have email or messaged you instead of the newsletter. I could have asked you, like, why are you putting these women on your thing? And
Sure.
I know you would have answered.
Of course I would have.
Yeah.
This is how you have a nuanced discussion. You'd have some critical thinking.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to ask this human why they're doing this. Has anyone asked Andrew Tate why he talks this way?
No.
Everyone interviews him. Piers Morgan interviews him. Everyone interviews him. Has anyone said the question, hey, you seem to be pretty harsh with your dialogue. You go to extremes with your opinions, use a lot of hyperbole, and seem to use aggressive, hostile, insightful statements that could definitely be phrased gentler. And you seem like a smart, intelligent man. So why do you do this? Are you doing this on purpose? Are you manipulating the media? Is this how you blow up the algorithms? Are you just using controversy? Do you really feel this way? Is it half and half? Right? And even if he lies, you still get to like hear something in his answer. Like,
yeah.
you get to like read to see if he going to give us the truth about the reason why. But if you don't even ask, then there's no discussion. You have nothing.
Right.
And for me, I have quite a lot of substance to offer the world.
You do.
And you would miss out on all the substance just because I like hot girls.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is that ridiculous.
It's absolutely not, because it was more of what you were saying in the caption. Anyway, when I went back, so for those of you that don't know the story, I saw Jay in a video. I fell in love with him, went to his Instagram because I was afraid to talk to him. And he had like 500 posts back then. And I went to the first one and I read them all. I read the captions, I read the quotes, I read the comments. Had I done that before, when I was triggered and annoyed, I would have realized he was actually talking about self-empowerment and self-love and self-worth and seeing my value and building a business and being a really lovely person. And when I read that, I was like, man, look at all this juicy gold you missed because you were so annoyed by a photo. And back then you used to put the quote on the photo. I didn't even read the quote. I would double tap and go quickly because I didn't even want to look at it. And I only did that because you worked with Evan and I was a big fan of Evan's and I respected his opinion about you. And if you're so close to him, then there's something there. And I got to see it later, but I missed out for a few months on some of that goodness because I let myself be in that hate or love. Like I didn't even think.
Yeah, most people would do better in life if they rose above the love, hate, good, evil,
yes,
black, white situation and started connecting with humans deeper, thinking more critically, thinking more nuanced, really sitting with topics, really sitting with issues. They would elevate themselves and their consciousness and they would be able to navigate most situations far, far better.
Right. Okay. So, Andrew Tate gets a lot of hate, mostly from women. There's actually a secret small group of women who love him and want to be with him. And reportedly he has 4 wives, but
there's an interview where he says he has 10 kids. So unless you think they all came from one woman.
No.
I don't know how old this guy is.
Right. Exactly. It's fairly safe to think that he's got a few wives. So, which is fine. Like we're poly. That's cool. I don't judge that. But my question is, why do so many women still want this if he's such a hateful person?
Maybe he's not. Maybe he just comes off that way in the media. You know how many influencers and celebrities have a media persona that they bring for the public consumption, and then in their private lives they're totally different?
Yeah. Well, you are perceived to be nice by these people, but no, I'm just joking. I love you.
Very funny.
I love you.
It's good. This question again comes from the people who just snap to judgment. They're like, he's a hateful person. Maybe he is. Maybe he's the worst. I don't know. I've never met him.
Right.
I've never had a conversation with him. How am I supposed to know? All I get is what I'm fed by the media, which he might be craftily manipulating. Like he might be shaping his image and his brand. They all do it. Like Hollywood's done it. Everybody's done it. They have PR agents and image consultants and lawyers, and it's a whole thing. When people get a vibe or an opinion on somebody from the media, I'm just like, real? This is where you're getting your data? The media? The like least reliable on the planet. And even when they're doing their best work and reporting the honest truth, they might be getting played by the celebrity.
Yeah, it's true. He may be setting himself up to look a certain way to get more attention, because you teach, when we were teaching entrepreneurs, you teach that controversy is one way to get attention quickly, right?
Yeah, especially from the masses who want bread and circuses.
Right.
They're like bored with their lives. They have nothing to do. They're like scrolling their feed looking for something juicy.
Right.
You serve up some controversy, you've just served up exactly what they want. And like 90% of society is going to jump all over it.
Right.
You'll get your algorithm spike. It's fantastic.
So it's possible that he's doing all this stuff for controversy and to get attention
Sure.
and to be relevant in the media.
If you look at most of Kanye's controversies, they happen right around an album release.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
is it just natural? Is it fluke? Is it convenience? Is it intentional? Is it just how he is? I don't know. But the point is, people need to try saying, I don't know, a lot more.
Yeah.
You do not know this person.
Yeah.
You think you know them because you've seen them so many times on camera. You've been fed and served up a narrative from them or from the media or from somebody about them.
Right.
It's like talking to your best friend and they're telling you about their partner, their spouse, and they keep trash talking the spouse, just trash talking them. And then you meet the partner and you're like, I didn't really see the big deal. You get along with them.
Yeah.
Or you actually end up with them behind your best friend's back later on or in front of them. Like,
right.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, of course. And
so even though person A is saying all this terrible stuff about this person, turns out they're not that bad. Or it goes the opposite, where the person's like, oh, I'm with him because he's so good. I'm with him because he's the best. I'm with him because he's whatever. And then you meet him, you're like, that dude is creepy AF. And I don't like anything about him. And what are you talking about? And you're like, why did I believe this narrative from my best friend? Mm-hmm. Well, the media is like the masses' best friend. They are plugged into the media nonstop. Right. And it's like the trash talk all day long or the praise all day long. But then when you actually meet the person, it's more nuanced than that.
Right.
Maybe they're not like that. Maybe they're the opposite of that. And so more people need to be like, I don't know. I'm getting fed whatever by the media. I'll form like a rough opinion, but I cannot weigh in on this until I shake that person's hand or talk to them face to face or meet their family and get a full picture. Like, that man has a lot of people who love him. Are they all just deluded freaks? That's what I'm supposed to do. Just all of those people. They're just deluded freaks. I don't have to talk to any of them. I don't have to see why they like him. I don't have to create any rapport. I don't have to dig deeper. I don't have to do any understanding. I can just write them all off. I can write Tate off and I can write his whole tribe off. Yeah?
No,
of course not. And I don't want someone to do that to me.
Right.
And Mother Teresa is like famous for being the nicest person on the planet or whatever.
Yes.
Altruistic to the core.
Right.
Am I just supposed to believe that too? Because that was a narrative by the media too. So is she just the nicest person? And her and all her tribe and all her family, they're all the nicest people? Zero corruption there, no greed, purest as snow. I should just believe this? No, but these are the narratives served up by the media. And so a healthier view is, look, I've never met Mother Teresa or her crew. I don't know if they shape PR image. I don't know if they're playing any games. I don't know if they're corrupt at all. I don't want to assume they are, but I don't know. The world won't end if you scroll and say, I don't know about this situation.
Okay.
But people in the love-hate paradigm, they have to know. They can't afford to say, I don't know, because that takes thought and effort, and they'll have to sit with the issue longer, and they can't make any snap judgments, and they can't feel self-righteous. They can't get their dopamine hit. And so they have to know. So I know he's bad, and I know he's good. I know she's bad, and I know she's good. And now I know, and that's all there is to it. And unless they do something else crazy, then I might flip my opinion, and now they're terrible.
Okay, so this makes a lot of sense. And actually, it's quite helpful. So when Trump was elected, I went into full meltdown mode, was infuriated. I was living in New York. We weren't together physically together at the time, but I was just completely heartbroken for my country.
A lot of people were.
Yes. And then I spent a lot of time watching the news and taking it in, and every little thing I read, it just added to the hate. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. And then one day I was like, I can't feel like this. Wow. I saw how it was affecting me, my negative energy and my media intake and the movies I was watching, the music I was listening to, the news. So that day I was like, I'm done. And I stopped looking and reading and paying attention to the news. I started only listening to music that made me happy. I only started watching movies and television shows that were funny and feel good. And a lot of people would say, actually, my mother told me I was putting my head in the sand to ignore it. But what I was doing was actually taking care of myself. I put myself first above all that stuff. And so same for Tate. So like I started this podcast kind of worked up and annoyed, even though I did my best before
I can understand
to,
why.
to raise my energy. And so like, I'm not perfect. I know how to do it, and I know how.
Neither is Tate.
I I know how to change my energy and focus on myself and how I feel and make myself feel good. But I'm not perfect. So
Mm.
reading, like I did a lot of research about this last night, and I remembered that stuff with that happened with Trump. And I reminded myself that I don't know this man. I may not agree with everything he says, but I do agree with some things he says. Like with Trump, you taught me I can learn from anyone.
You can learn from anyone.
And I believe that. I fully believe that. And even though I don't like anything Trump says or does, what I do admire about him is how he gets attention and how he's been able to market himself
He's good at that.
and how he's been able to keep himself relevant. It doesn't matter how he's done it or with controversy. This to me as a marketer is pretty admirable. And I would love to have even a third of that. With Tate, it's the same thing, really. So I asked myself, reading all this stuff, what can I learn from this man? And it's a few things. My tone. So maybe I didn't start the podcast with the great tone, and some of my questions didn't come off with the right tone. And I interrupted a lot because I felt really annoyed and I had a lot of things to say, but really it didn't help. It wasn't helpful. It was being triggered and being the person that hates him, or the side of me that hates. But this is not who I am or what I want to be. This is not my brand. My brand is sweet and positive and loving. So you have been very helpful to me. And if someone like me who was really angry and hateful in the past can change these things, and who can look at somebody like Tate and see the good parts to take and to learn from, doing things that make you feel better, taking personal responsibility for your life and your actions and making better choices. These are good things, even if he doesn't teach them in the right way or the way that I would prefer. That's the lesson. So it's up to you guys to decide if you want to be in the hateful camp or the loving camp or the understanding camp, like whatever. So I want to ask you, how do you feel about Tate?
I feel about Tate the way I feel about most, or maybe all, people who've become influencers or celebrities in the public eye. To me, that whole group, whether they're good or bad or whatever, are impressive because they're the lightning rods of attention for the rest of society.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's eyes are on them. And they started as babies, just like all of us. They started as little blobs in their crib or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they've made choices all along the way, somehow, that got them to be in the public eye. And I believe that takes certain qualities and certain traits that are rare and generally positive.
Mm-hmm.
Like a trait of self-determination. Like I'm a self-made man. I'm determined to see my mission or vision through. I'm determined to be a success, right? Jim Carrey wrote himself a check, law of attraction kind of thing, and manifested his way to success. Oprah came from some crazy background, or I don't know what she's been through, and she had to do some like trash talk show at first that she didn't want to do, and eventually she became her own woman, right?
She did, yes.
Kanye, he's been through so much. He's accomplished so much in so many arenas, and all these people get hated on, and all of them have done some crazy shit that I probably wouldn't suggest or recommend or approve of or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I do my best to look past those things because that's not what's worth looking at here. I want to make an impact on the world. I want to succeed on a grand stage. I want to reach more people. I think I have a lot of value to say and to share. And that means I need to learn from these people, and I need to respect what they've accomplished, and I need to give them their due or their props. And even if they got inheritance or a leg up here or there, it doesn't matter. I still have to figure out how to follow a similar path, right, and hopefully do it better, and hopefully do it without triggering like 90% of the world or whatever. But if that's what it takes, I'm up for that too. Like, I don't want to do that, but if that's the path, I need to make peace with that. And most people I talk to or interact with just want to be these people. right? Like they're idol worship. They're stalking them. They're following them. They're like their feed's full of them.
Yes.
And they either want to be them or they pretend they don't. And they like just want to hate on them all day when they're actually jealous. And all of their attention is on these people. Even this podcast, we're talking about Tate. He's not talking about me.
Right.
Look at the dynamic. Look what has happened here. And so I have some very strong beliefs about relationships and about masculine and feminine or whatever gender spectrum you want to talk about. I have some really, I think, valuable, helpful ideas that have not been discussed very much, have not been shared. And I don't know if Andrew Tate would agree with them. I can guarantee you he won't agree with them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help anyone if those ideas are buried in a podcast that no one sees. His ideas might be worse, but at least people are seeing them. My ideas might be better, but no one is seeing them. So I absolutely have to cherish and respect the visibility they've managed to get. Because we can have all of the best people on the planet with great ideas, but they're hidden in little tribes off in nowhere land, or they're like in a basement somewhere in a busy city, not reaching anyone. And so how does that help the world? How is it good if all the people with all the best ideas keep them hidden? It's terrible bad.
Okay.
But the people with the best ideas who are keeping them hidden are busy hating on the people who get visibility. So how are they ever going to get something that they hate?
Can't.
So there you go. So I don't know these people. I don't know any of them personally. I know what the media has fed me about them, and I do my best not to be judgmental or make any snap judgments based on what's been fed to me. And if I do want to know them or meet them, I'm probably going to have to raise my visibility so I'm on their level. And then maybe I will meet them. And then maybe I will get to the bottom of these things. And maybe I can find out if this man's really an asshole and I want to stomp off the stage and like, screw you. Right. Or maybe we have a civil discussion and he's open to my ideas on relationships and masculine and feminine and so on. And if he's open to them, maybe everyone else is wrong. Maybe, hey, we had a civil debate. But I won't know until I have personal experience with this person. I can't go off of the one-sided narrative I have been fed.
Right.
So far, the narrative I've been fed does not look good. It looks like I don't really want to meet this guy. It looks like we won't have a civil discussion. It looks like
right.
He's just going to yell at me on stage and I won't like it. But maybe he's more chill than that. Maybe he can have a civil discussion. Maybe he's more of a man than I think he is, right? Because a man can discuss ideas without having a heart attack, without getting all physical with somebody. I'm a boxer. Let me know to punch you out. Like, what is this? What are you, like, an animal? Like, come on. A man can have civil debate. But I don't know if he can or not, because everyone just pushes his buttons and he plays a crafted, controversial media personality. And like, I would need to get him in a bar away from his like entourage to have a chat. I would need to have a real heart to heart and see, are you open to my ideas? And until then, I don't really know. But what I do know is that way more people need to give way more props to the influencers who have attained visibility. Because if you want to change the world, you're going to need to get some visibility. And so you need to start learning from these people.
Agreed. That was an excellent answer. Thank you so much. I just want to add, like, for the people who are hating on anyone really, then you may need to think about what you can do about it. Be the change. So I have one last question. Do you have any other things you want to add? Anything you want to say to our audience? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I do. You guys are powerful. Your energy is powerful. Your choices are powerful. Your thoughts are powerful. Your moods are powerful. And letting controversial figures like Andrew Tate or controversial platforms like the media trigger you and push your buttons and serve you up things that keep you distracted and riled up about external situations that you're not going to change and that are not part of your life purpose is a waste of your power. And if you really want to elevate yourself and your life and the lives of others, you need to be using your power wisely. That means using your energy wisely and your moods wisely and your thoughts wisely and your choices especially wisely. And it starts with small choices that seem insignificant. Your choice of what to scroll past or what to click like on or what to feed or what you put in your algorithms, what gets recommended to you. Your choice on what you discuss with friends and family. Are you discussing building something and creating something? Or are you discussing tearing down others? Are you discussing creating your new business, getting your new promotion, starting a new relationship, being a better partner? Or are you discussing tearing down of people who are trying to rile you up anyways? They thrive on your hate. They love the haters. The haters make them go viral. So are you supporting them? Are you giving them your attention? Even me and Sin on this podcast talking about Andrew Tate is supporting him. But I think the message is more important here. So I'm willing to take that risk. But most people are just supporting these figures with their hate. That's it, with no other ulterior motive. They're not helping in any way. Most people are just supporting these figures with their hate. So be smarter, be wiser, be more powerful, and careful where you place your support. Whether it's passionate love or passionate hate, you are supporting something. And I think we could have a much better world if everyone was using our power a little more wisely.
And that's why this podcast is called Eyes Wide Open, people.
Keep rising.